Welcome to Playful Podcast, your guide into the underground scene where we discover topics on kink and electronic music every week. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on our next episode. I am here today with the founder of Klub Verboten, Karl. We find out more about what made him decide to start a sex club together with his partner, what to think about before heading to the sex party, and what to expect. I am Amanda, and this is Playful Podcast. I think I need to ground myself a little. I'm a little bit up in my head today. It's been a hectic day.
You're doing so well, don't worry.
Zen. Okay. Welcome to Berlin, Karl.
Thank you.
Yeah, you arrived here not so long ago, right?
No. Still not fully. I think still going back and forth between the events. So yeah, wouldn't say we are Berliners yet.
And then you lived in London for 15 years?
15 years now, yeah. Long time.
Yeah, how's the sex club scene in London and how has it changed, you'd say?
I think Londoners are different in a sense, right? If I look at the landscape now, there's more play, there's more complex play. I think the situation the environment has evolved to larger complexities, right? And that is super interesting to see now. And I think the community that we may have picked up many years ago, they outgrown us, right? I think they come up with ideas that I could never imagine back then. It's very nice, right? And I think that is different, right? Berlin understands to rave and celebrate really well. London understands to play.
Okay. And if you look at it 15 years ago until today, how has it evolved, you'd say? Besides from that they are growing with knowledge and...
I gotta be careful what I say. I don't know. I mean, it was horrible to me at least, right? But this is just my taste, right? Mm-hmm. I think the narrative of, if you could call it sex positive spaces or BDSM fetish clubs back in the day, right? They cater for a certain storyline and niche, and that wasn't mine, right? It was musically, it was very much on the psytrance side, and it was very heteronormative in a way, and that was at least, for myself, for my very own personal experience, and I think that made us want to explore this more and do something else.
Was there anything also when it comes to the sex club scene in London that made you want to move to Berlin, you'd say, or?
Yeah, I mean, Berlin is a little bit our exile. When you look at London has changed politically, and I think it was an intense ride for us, but also the sort of threat level that we encountered and the chances of being closed down all the time made us personally move. We needed a bit of a calm space for ourselves, and we needed a bit of a distance between the issues that we face there, and encountering them from here put us in a stronger position mentally.
What are they threatening you about? How does it look in London, or England?
So I think politically and mentally, and from a legal perspective, there is a lot more stigma. Although, right, these spaces existed for such a long time, but so far the authorities only dealt with turning blind eye. And with turning blind eye for decades, we increased the gap in between what we can talk about now and what's digestible and what's not. So we are now in a situation, although all these places existed for too long, if there is an incident, if there is something going wrong, the only response they have is shutting things down, right? And that's understandable, right? You have a nuclear reactor that goes off. Of course, the first thing would say, cool, let's close it down. It doesn't seem safe. But we have nuclear reactors. They're still working. They're still up and running, regardless what I think of it, right? And that is an issue.
Do you feel that, I'm thinking everything it's always hard to reach out when it comes to sex. Maybe it's so social media, we're all aware of, and these things. Do you feel that you're targeted a bit because of this?
Yes and no. I mean, you hit so many closed doors, right? You start to wonder, what is going on? I mean, we dealt with various authorities and boroughs, and you get your 15th rejection, and not just rejection, also sometimes, that countered together with I think the peak point was this 6 months prison sentence that I waved in my face if I would ever dare to come back. You tend to think, okay, what's going on here? Is that us? Is that, what is the issue here? Because you have a gambling hall that is open 24/7 next to it, right? That's also an apparent social issue that we're dealing with. So how can they exist and not us, right? But then taking these authorities apart, you find people that are just very pragmatic and just follow their very little horizon. But as a whole, right, this little horizon kind of multiplied by all these instances shapes into this very sharp knife that just graves into your heart when you're trying to do something you care about. So, yeah, I feel targeted.
Yeah. Did you yourself, how long has Klub Verboten existed?
It's 2016.
2016, yeah.
So going to 6th birthday now.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hopefully we're allowed to do it.
What month?
It would be September.
September, okay. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
We're allowed.
When did you experience your first sex party?
Oh, that's a long time ago. 20 years, maybe? Was I even 18? I don't know.
Somewhere in Germany.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to mention where and when? No, it's something very underground, I guess, then.
Yeah.
Okay. How was your experience there?
It's different. I mean, it's more frightening than everything, right? And maybe that's also missing these days. I mean, now we managed to tint everything in pastel tones, which is great. But I also think there is a time to make BDSM a little more frightening again, with a more contemporary means. Yeah, I would be looking forward to that.
Right. But the whole vibe you get, I mean, since you started your own space, there must have been some thoughts where you were like, this is freaking exciting, this is giving me life, this is giving me, you feel passionate about opening up the doors for other people, I guess, in a new way.
Yeah, it moves, I guess, to the next stage. I mean, I couldn't say this for myself, right? What we realized very early is that all this comes with a lot of responsibility, and we gave up on that very quickly. So, and our own feelings and emotions around it. So, for example, I'm probably the only person that attended every event and never played there, not once. So you think of yourself as a pervert, and you think of catering for these things, and you have people that come to you and say, "Oh, this is amazing, and this opened a whole new world for me," and all this, and yeah, it did for you, for me. It's I'm just a facilitator now, right? I got to make sure that everyone is safe and that things remain safe, whatever that safe is these days. Heavy debated word, right? But yeah, you move on to another stage, right? You just got to accept that.
Do you miss going to a party and play yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. It becomes a new norm for you, and so what would that party, what would it be? You've seen so much, right? You're kind of looking for something that is a bit more challenging again. And for example, there is this basement in Dalston on Kingsland Road. You got to find out yourself where it is. There's this door that you can knock every Sunday morning, and it would open a slot. And what are you here for? And you're like, well, that basement club. Like, okay, come in, $20. And it's like this super crazy place, operated for 20 years, no license. Someone's gonna hate me for this now. No license, off the radar. Like even all the equipment, like the stereo behind the bar, and everything kind of indicates, okay, nothing in here has seen daylight for 20 years, right? It's just stopped in time. And there is this lap dancing pole that's somehow blue tagged into the wall, and you have this fire exit that's blocked by this disco ball, and nothing in there makes sense, right? Nothing. There's no match between any of the objects nor the people that go there. And I think that place still offers this sense of anxiety, right, when you approach the door. And that is obviously something that you as a promoter or someone that almost starts to live in those spaces, you lose over time, right? And I think that is what you would look for.
But this place kept like the same.
It's still there. Yeah.
That's crazy. People are always complaining about things changing and becoming worse and worse and worse. I know we had a conversation about this before, not about sex clubs, but about many other things. But yeah, when you come to a place with new eyes, you think that's like, you know, that's it. If it's opening your eyes, it's opening up your eyes, right? So.
Oh yeah, I mean it's never been good, so it's kind of maintained its crazy level, but it's good in a way because it gets you thinking, right? And like anything that disturbs you a little bit, anything that puts you out of your comfort zone gets you thinking, right? So that would be a way of getting inspired in a way, right? And coming back to, okay, how can we translate this scareness, this anxiety into a space that is perhaps a bit more open, a bit more welcoming, and a bit more... No, I'm not going to use that word. Yeah, and that is the big question.
Okay, but good to go back a little bit, like when you started the club, how was, like, what, were there your friends coming to the club, or like how did that look like?
No, it was different back then. I mean, I I remember half of my friends giving up on me. Like
giving up on you, like they thought you were a pervert and they didn't want to have anything to do with you.
2016, that was a different landscape. People would definitely, okay, good luck, delete your number real quick. It was different. It was very different, in particular in London. And it was not perceived as a good move at all. And there was much more resistance in a sense.
All right. Yeah, but I guess this, it's the same, I guess, for us having Playful. Like many of my friends, close and more distant ones, are like, they assume that me and Philip are going to dungeons like every second day, being spanked by some big bouncy beasts,
Great.
because it's amazing. I love our life. But I mean, for me at least, you say it was different back then. Playful started in 2019, and I feel that, at least for us, I feel that we are sometimes touching on that as well, that people have some opinions and thoughts about who you are, and like, oh, I didn't know that Amanda was into that stuff, and they assume things about you, whether it's true or not. It's just so much assumptions the moment you speak about sex and even come close to the subjects of BDSM, cursed. Right? But yeah, anyways, started talking about the starting point of Klub Verboten. How was the first opening night?
It was different.
It was what?
It was different. I mean, the first night started with 75 people, in some warehouse in East London, and it was...
That's pretty good, 75 anyway, for the first day, isn't it?
I mean, who thought about numbers back then,
If it's none of them were your friends either. I mean, how did you find them?
Some random strangers of the internet,
Did you hand out flyers?
Oh yeah, the whole thing, and the people would throw it on the floor, like, no, I'm not going to go there. Just go to the big, Tesco brand. Yeah, whatever. Like it was, but it was great, right? It was real, it was raw, it was good, very impersonal. It was good.
You were proud after the first day, like we made it.
No, I mean, I don't think I take any of this serious enough now to be proud of it. No.
You're never done?
No.
But it's your full time, it's what you do now, right?
Someone has to do it, yeah.
Someone has to do it. All right. Okay. Cool. Like, what were your different roles than you and Hani?
I mean, I think now the job that we're doing now didn't exist back then. No, we pretty much created that for ourselves. And now you scale that up, went with over 1,000 people. By default, there is so much trouble. There is so much drama. There's so many emotions involved. And, although we grow so many, for us, important friendships out of this space, we barely have time. to spend time with the people that we care most about. We spend a lot of time with the people that are so demanding to us that they eat up all the night, right? So I think back then it was just a party for ourselves as well, and now we're a bit of the medic, we're a bit of the vulnerability team, we're a bit of the caretaker, we're a bit of the bouncer at the door. And it's really, really stressful.
You need a vacation?
Oh, yeah, overdue. Haven't done one in a year.
In a year?
No, not one. No vacation. We work every day. So even the Sundays.
I mean, that's passion. It must be. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep going. Like,
yeah, it's FOMO. It's FOMO and fear and everything.
Would you say you're a like party person? Like,
yeah.
You have always at least felt that you don't want to miss a party.
Yeah.
A good party, I mean.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah. That is no motivators.
If you'd mention 3 clubs in the world that has like inspired you to create something that is really good, what would that be? It could also be like a freaking carnival or whatever, but just like this place and the experience I got from this is something I want to keep or build on.
No.
You just
no. I separate them. Like there's places that mean something to myself, but then there's also there's things that come out from the inside of you, and you want to shape and move them, and you want to kind of rethink things, and you don't want to adapt, and you don't want to be guided by something that you already appreciate. So that's always the greatest ambition, right? Like how do you not be influenced? How do you create something that comes from inside, and that is what you really want to do, and that's something that you translated somehow.
Okay, so skip the parties, but some bullet points that you felt like it's gonna be this, and this. The space I'm creating.
No.
Not even that.
No.
Because I mean, to me, what you have is very focused on a sex party. There are the playgrounds, and there's also a very strong awareness team and keeping it safe, right? So I mean, there must have been, but maybe it's not coming from you.
I think it's you move like occasion by occasion. Like there's definitely a scene, a moment, an incident, even a persona or something that gets you thinking to the next event, and from there you reshape, you move things around, and that definitely exists, and that is the most important motor. There's definitely people, they probably wouldn't even know, but they've been most inspiring, right? They've been through their journey from this event and transforming. They've been at the very core of how we shape the next event.
But if you compare London as a city, like London and Berlin with each other, what would you say? How do they differ?
So I think, from what I've seen, right, and I can only speak from the position that as Karl, but I can speak from my position as the bystander, as the observer that goes out alone, right, which I do a lot to new places and just stand there and observe, right. From what I've noticed is that Berlin understands to rave a lot, long hours in bikini tops. London learned to be sober and develop complex interactions. They're very, very temporary, right? And I think that from a mental perspective is more challenging, and we want to provide more for that. Whether Berlin wants that, I don't know. I also don't care. Like, this is what we want to do, right? And I think that is in the core, that is still the difference for me. At the same time, right, there is there's this admiration and love for Berlin, because I can very much appreciate people. I can very much appreciate all these other places. So, whenever we say, oh, that's what I feel is the difference, it's not talking down, right? It's just how we feel about it, and that's what we spot. And there's this, again, a very inner need to cater for this, right? So I think with us coming here, we're not intending to be another rave. We're intending to cater for complex scenarios and play. And for anyone that's been through all these other stages and is just looking for something that is perhaps a bit more intense experience, so anything that is more than just a headache from the cheap booze.
All right. And if someone is listening to this and hasn't experienced sex clubs before but is curious to do so, is there something that you would suggest them to think about before heading there?
Pace yourselves. I think that's the most important, you know. I think I see over time I saw so many people that essentially good people, but perhaps they misreading the room, right? I mean, of course, you get dumped in this huge environment and you see so much sex happening and play happening everywhere. And of course, it's quite easy to assume that with you being there, you're already part of that and you just have to tap on someone's shoulder. But I think there is so much more to gain just to take time. Take time and take an example. I never played at the event and I'm still alive, right? Like I haven't bursted yet, so it's possible. Just take your time, read the room, you know, come back another time, develop with that environment. That's really important. Yeah.
And as I talked a little bit about, you have a very strong awareness team, which is something I feel that in Berlin maybe we're reaching towards right now. But it, at least where at the parties I've been to, it hasn't been super clear before. But and it's definitely hasn't been as clear as in your parties, and you have the rules very clearly on the doors or on monitors, and it's like behave, kind of follow our guidelines or you're out. Was that a little bit of trial and error, or?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, none of these things developed because we woke up one morning and said, oh, we have to be now really forceful in this and we have to destroy someone's life by kicking them out. No, we were forced to act up on things that happened at the event. You know, so we were also very naive in the beginning, right? We were thinking of all these free spaces and how liberated we can be and how we all can express each other's. But the reality, if you operate on a monthly basis, is that sexual harassment happens, right? It may not be apparent, it may be a little less than in sort of the general vanilla nightlife culture, but it happens, right? And when it happens, then it's emotionally demanding and you cannot take it back. There's no such a thing as handing out a plaster, right? Like you can not undo this, right? So that always motivated us to try anything we can. And sometimes, you know, there were collaterals. Sometimes we did things we're like, ooh, maybe that's a bit too much. But in the end of the day, through trying, we always managed to bring numbers generally down. And that regardless of, you know, what maybe a negative social media post was about us at the time, we moved on, we kept those things and we stuck it through. And, you know, I have to say, you want to octo-coctor around the room, you can do that pretty much anywhere, right? That's no one's taking anything away from some cis straight man that thinks, oh, but I can't walk around and wank in someone's face anymore. Who cares? You can do this still everywhere. You just can't do it here, right? So we're not taking any liberties.
Not everywhere.
Essentially, right? But what we learned is that, and that is also coming through the pressure of the authorities in London, we had to start think and work proactively. So we transformed from being there for a potential victim towards, okay, how can we develop tactics around not letting it come to this place in the first instance? And of course, there will never be 100% margin, but I think we became, and this is early stages, quite successful in spotting potential rape scenes, spotting potential sexual assaults, and stepping in and having conversations and escalating things further if we really have to. And it takes a bit of being brave. It also takes getting a lot of shit, right? Because you kick someone out, and of course the situation hasn't happened, right? So someone, of course, will use all kinds of weaponry and arsenal available to tag you with whatever tagline. But I prefer this much more than sitting down with a victim of a sexual assault on a Monday morning in tears. And I've seen a lot of them.
Is it like an own developed like way of targeting these people, or how do you spot them? Like, is it by experience you feel that this is a person? I need to keep an extra eye on this person.
That is obviously what they would say, right? And they would say, oh, you only target me because my dick is hanging out, or just an example, right? But if you spend 6 years, a couple of days a month, 8 hours, 10 hours in this environment, you see certain movements, scenarios always repeat, right? These are the ones that we can act on, the ones that are known repetitive little Ponzi schemes. And these are the only ones we can address, right? Everything else, of course, right, would be judgmental or would bring unconscious biases, for example, no doubt about it. But the ones that we can put our attention to and put into a lecture and things that we can teach our safeguarding teams, of course, and there would be, for example, we would be cautious about aggressive cruising, right? So if someone goes up and down the aisle with their little paddle in their hand and spanking in their own hand and looking left and right, the person passed you the 20th time, of course you would go and have a chat with them and find out, is this just the, what we mentioned earlier, the very innocent, naive, and maybe newbie-ish kind of person that just doesn't know any better, right? Then it's potentially a friendly reminder. Or if it's Lord Dickhead that just wouldn't accept the feedback, then of course they have to go and they can't ever come back. And we're very, very firm on that. Or whether it is classical example, right? This is one you see so many times. You have 2 people walking into a playroom. There's a spanking bench. Person A bends person B down, right? And while this one person gets spanked, we already sense, okay, so they walked in, bent over immediately. We haven't seen any chat, any conversation. Perhaps it happened outside that space, which it should. Okay, let's monitor it. But then while that person is being spanked, you have the other person behind them, between each spank, casually putting in these little moves of undoing the belt, undoing a sip, getting a cookout, starting to masturbate, and there's still no conversation happening, right? So that would be a clear red flag. And ultimately, these red flags, because we don't know what the future might bring, right, in this occasion, that would be an ejection and ban from the space, 100%.
One thing I always wondered about, as I don't work in clubs and such, is that when you ban people, do you take a photo of them? Maybe it's a stupid question. Or how do you know? How can you?
Don't sue me for saying this. Yeah, that's a sensitive one. Perpetrators also have rights, and they love to make use of it. And they do, and this is what also gets clubs shut down. There's a lot of very, very entitled people out there that would completely ignore the pre-story or how it led up to this ejection or how it led up to creating this entry on a ban list, and they would fight for their lives of being right in their position. And they usually like your, investment bankers and, I am the lawyer there, I'm there, and they would use all those apparent powers to, cause a lot of trouble for you. And we've been through those processes. Yeah, so I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay. You're very political. Have you done a lot of interviews?
No. Why should I? I
don't know. There was a joke. But you know how to. Okay, but let's move on to the dress code, because this is something that is maybe a little easier, because I know you're very like transparent about dress codes.
Yeah.
There's many things I think about here, but first, if you haven't been to a sex club, how should you think?
I think put dress code first. This is just ultimately so important. And of course, there's voices, but I don't want to spend the money, and it's none about that, right? Checking a dress code allows us, right, us as people that seen so many people, processed so many people, this was over so many years, right? We're able to shape also, caused by our biases and so on, shape a picture. We're able to understand if you put thought process into this night beyond your outfit. And I think that is the key, right? Of course, we cater for rope people, fetish people, BDSM people, swingers, and so on, right? Of course, there's not to all these things a materialized dress code to it, right? I happen to be a fetishist, so of course that's important to me, right? And I will always be embedded somehow in this event. But I think there's also, that's for the newbie now, get a good outfit, right? If people want to make contact with you, they will probably approach you and talk about your outfit, right? So just
that's
make the
really
effort.
good. That's like note taker, but it's true. Like if you're there also to make connections, wear something a little bit extra, and it's such a good hook. Smart, like that.
Yeah, it helps.
Mm-hmm.
It helps. And you get in, which is another benefit.
Yeah, speaking of, like, why do you have the dress code? No, that was too basic. I know, you know where I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah. I think that there's so many reasons, right? So it helps us to avoid bypassers and standers, right, from the street to walk in. We only want to care for this community. So keeping intruders in that sense, right, someone that just walked through the wrong door out is very important. The other side, like I said, right, it's very important that we see someone put a thought process in, right? If they've read the guidelines on the dress code, perhaps they also read the rules. This really helps. And then, it also, I think saying it helps to create this environment is really mildly expressed, but let's put it in as a scenario. You wear latex, you walk through a dance floor with a busy dance floor with a lot of people wearing latex, you get stuck to them. Right, like there's these little moments of, when you get stuck to someone, isn't that great? I mean, and then people really still these days, they're like, oh, why do we have to dress up? Because where else do you have this experience, right? This is what you want. This is part of it. So let's enjoy it for a little bit while we can.
Yeah, and I mean, in some places you are the weirdo if you're fully dressed in latex. Here you're definitely the weirdo if you're like,
yes.
dressed in a everyday suit or whatever.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than suits. Topless straight men with chino pants. Oh yeah, that's
doesn't appeal to you.
I don't get it. Like, what's the difference from being like a football hooligan, down the road and a pub? They look exactly the same. Like, there's no difference. Like, to me, that's like, I couldn't say, is that now a threat level to myself? Because I definitely disagree with the football hooligan pub down the road. Or just someone that was like, yeah, but I'm a swinger. I can wear chino pants and stripy socks,
No. Yeah. So now you're in Berlin and you had 2 parties here already. 3rd one coming up. Do we have a date?
Yeah. So we're onto the Beer Pinsels series now, which happens once a month at some particular Friday. First one this Friday. And that's a bit of a highlight. Like, I remember like a year ago, we were thinking about Berlin and then we're Googling Berlin venue and this thing came up. And then we are anyways in that type of architecture. I'm like, oh, that would be a dream. Oh, no. And I remember telling myself, let's just skip it. It's not going to happen anyway. So I didn't even pay attention, right, to this thought. And then someone just mildly suggested while walking past, oh, yeah, we can do something at a Beer Pins. We're like, wow. So I'm super excited about it.
And do you feel that you're getting into the Berlin? Do you feel that you're bringing in London to Berlin? Or do you feel that you're getting integrated in the Berlin or...
Yeah, I prefer the exchange side of it. We're definitely never going to be part of anyone's gang, like that's for sure. With like the highest respect, but and the most love for anything else out there. But I think right now the most interesting part is that there is such a strong community in London, and at the same time, Germany is kind of our home. So being able to bring that together, right, and being able to be that facilitator there that says, "Hey, have you met my friend from London?" And there is so great, right? In particular in current times, as like all the borders seem to, get reinforced towards the west and the east again. To be able to do that is really nice.
Cool. And both you and Hani are from Germany.
Yep.
Different parts. But what makes you feel at home in Berlin? Or feel like, okay, this is the place, this is the city for me right now?
I mean, Londoners have been always super welcoming towards us, always, you know, and allowing us to like flourish there and land there was great. But not that we ever noticed when we were in London, but coming back to Germany, you realize that like all your linguistic capabilities are at a level of a 12th grader, right? Like this is just it. That's your horizon. That's all you can express. Like coming back to Germany, it's a whole nother thing. All these tiny little expressions. And it's not that I ever missed it. I didn't know that I needed it in my life. I didn't know that I missed it. But coming back and feeling that, like experiencing that is great. You know? So it's, now we want to stay suddenly.
Cool. Okay, so I guess there's some things that you like that feels like home for you that is not even easy to speak about, like
yes,
the currywurst. Okay.
Yes. Oh God. I mean, there's the language, there's the food, but there's also like, I mean, there's always this question: what inspires you? What and it inspires in a way of what makes you enjoy waking up and wanting to go outside your trusted walls of your home, right? And in Berlin, for example, it's the landscape, it's the architecture. Like in London, sadly, everything either looks like a bank or a Victorian building. And these are just times they don't exist in my memories, right? Because I didn't grow up there. And I also don't want them to exist in my future. So they don't inspire me. They don't motivate me to leave house. We're here every day, and it doesn't really matter. I could live in any part of Berlin. It really doesn't matter for me right now. It's just nice to get out of the house and walk around. Like, oh, look at this, and this is great, and is,
new
prevents
inputs.
your prevents your cells up there just to go stale and numb.
Oh yeah. One thing I thought about is also like we talked a little bit before about attracting a crowd to the party, and you mentioned that it can sometimes like it can like you need to find your crew or like you need to brand yourself in a way that attracts the right kind of people, I guess. In how can you make a sex party more inclusive for queer people and not only attract 50-60-year-old straight couples?
Are you ageist?
No, at all. But if it's only that, it turns into the swingers club bubble bath, maybe.
I've been sued at the moment for being apparently ageist in London. Yeah, this one is for you, Paul Dick.
Paul, you. Watch out, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, this is... there's such a big question, There's always... You can never satisfy them all. There will always be an opposite opinion to that. Regardless to what I say, there will always someone be like, oh no, they rejected me at the door for this and this and that. Well, if you think so, perhaps, right? If this is the story you want to give to yourself and store on your memory, then perhaps, right, it becomes reality. But ultimately, look, we all know what we're talking about, right? The most incidences, and this is all we can care about, right, as a space facilitator, the most problems sadly arise with straight men, right? So of course, right, we have to when we think as a community, right, and want to create a space that can resonate for everyone equally, and where we want to feel equal, we have to take into considerations everyone's background, preferences, orientation, and so on, right? With the I need to think about it. This is like Karl kind of topic, right? Because it's so debated. For us, we never publicly identified. We never said, look, we're this club or that club. We will never do so. And because the time we opened in London, it was a different time. Communities were extremely segregated, right? You had your gay clubs in Vauxhall, and you had all your straight clubs in Hackney, for example, and that was it. Right? We didn't came with a master plan, but I think over time our community demanded all these things, and we have evolved with them. They matured us, not us. We have acted up on that, And so we continue to do, right? With ever new challenges, there will be some, because we're dealing with humans and they're complex, right? And they evolve and they change. But ultimately, that's the answer to the question.
Give and take.
Yeah.
A little bit, I guess. Let's see if you answered this one. But what, what do you think Berlin is missing that Klub Verboten is bringing to the city?
Good question.
Because there are so many sex parties here in I don't know, there probably are a lot in London as well, but maybe not as openly, I guess. Like there are many underground clubs, but here they are overground.
Perhaps a space you can indulge into piss play, licking piss off a floor without getting a taste of Peffy. Like, I mean, I think, we're doing our best to go in sort of more remote locations, and we're aiming to build spaces that are modern, right? We kind of like sterile stuff, and when it comes to play, and I think most club landscapes are not that, and they shouldn't be that, right? But we're also not a club, we're not a rave in that sense, right? We're a space that caters, I think, at least surface-wise, for play, and that is different. We're probably your 2-room BDSM studio on 350 square meters. Like that is the difference. We think about the complexity of play and the multi-purpose use of a piece of equipment and furniture upscaled for 1,000 people. And I haven't seen it anywhere else. And it's also, okay, here's Karl having a degree in music and booking artists and putting on raves and here and there, but all we think about is play. All we think about is sex at the very forefront of the spaces that we build. Everything else is secondary. It's auxiliary to the rest, right? It's the second place almost, and that is different. That's very different.
You didn't want to mention a lot of sex parties you've been at, but are there some you tried out? Like, are there some you have tried out and want to lift in some way?
They're all lifted already and they're all great. Do they need me to say that?
Now you get your pay. 20 euros. Sponsored by... No, I'm just kidding. No, you don't have to...
No, that's my personal life. Like there is this is the places I go to and appreciate for going there, right? Of ours. And they should remain that, right? There's some parties and places where I'm glad they are exactly that. And then there's Verboten. And for this idea of Verboten, we just try our hardest not to look left and right? We try our hardest not to get an inspiration anywhere else, because you see something, this is so great and I like it so much, and we just try not to get distracted from our own thoughts.
Okay. I haven't thought about it before, but Klub Verboten, it's a German name, of course, but how did it, like, how did the Brits think about the name?
They can't pronounce it.
They can't, right?
No. I mean, so we came up with the name, right? It was obviously in our minds at the time, everything was forbidden in the UK. Everything was so strict compared to Berlin at the time, right?
What year?
2016.
Oh, yeah.
You go in a club, you go to a club and you take a shit and suddenly you hear this rattling on this cubicle and think, oh my God, an earthquake. And no, it's a bouncer trying to climb over it to blind you with a torch. And you sit there, pants down, what are you doing? What are you doing there? I'm having a shit. What are you doing? Right? It was insane at times. So, Verboten was at the time, the name, this antidote, this silent resistance towards that. I mean, how little did we know that we at the end became Verboten? A few months back in a certain borough in London where they just cancelled us, right? So it's like in the name now. But we had more complicated names. We had a little play party, it was called Die Unbekannte, which
Like the unknown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the term, the Unbekannte?
Yeah,
So-
well, I get it kind of.
Yeah.
That's cool, yeah.
It's an old prison term. When you sit on your hand, right, until it gets numb, and then you jerk
Okay.
off, it feels like someone else is doing this.
People say that, but then when I ask people about it, they are like, nah.
You have to at least try it once. Come on.
Yeah.
It's too
I guess,
tempting.
but I guess people try this when they're like 12.
Yeah. Also, besides trying the Hoover, get sucked off. Of course. Why not?
Oh, the Hoover, really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, you got to try it once.
It's like in some, like American Pie, I think they do it.
Yeah.
So did you try the pie also?
No. No, I'm not.
Liar.
I'm not into pie. I probably tried the Truckerfutzer. You know Truckerfutzer?
No.
So Truckerfutzer it's Truckerkant, right? It's when you take a flask and you stuff it with minced meat, hot minced meat.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit more practical. It's less messy. It's very German in a way.
Like a flash mob.
Yeah. They have these like factory made ones now. They took probably inspiration.
It
from
was
that one.
your idea.
That's a classic. It's a classic.
Okay.
There's no patent on it. Everyone can do it.
Great tip for the ones who don't dare go into the sex shops.
Exactly.
I'm your host, Amanda, and you're listening to Playful Podcast. If you like what we do and want to support us, as well as get some extra perks, such as access to all episodes before everyone else, and a lot of extra material that will never be released on the main channel, go to patreon.com/playfulmagazine. Okay, now we have the last part. And now we go back to the official thing. And we have our wonderful this or that. So now I will say two assumptions or two one this and one that, and you say which one of them fits in on you the most. Sex or making out?
Making out.
Children or pets?
Pets. 100%.
Dark room or dance floor?
Dark room.
Seducing or being seduced?
Seducing.
Feet or hands?
Oh God, that's a complex one. There's only one pair of feet I adore. Feet. Then.
Feet?
Yeah, probably no, but yes. Feet.
If it's the right feet.
Yeah.
Feet if it's the right feet. Okay. A stranger or someone you already met?
Stranger.
Toys or hands?
Toy. Hands.
Being watched or watching?
Being watched.
One person or multiple?
Both.
Pet play or latex? Well,
Latex.
it's obvious, this one. To dominate or to be dominated?
None.
Naked or latex?
Latex.
We already know that one. Boom. Okay, the actual last one is what's in your bag. But as you didn't bring a bag.
My cock. Yes, that's like if my bag consists of trousers without pockets, then it's my cock, sorry.
Is there something you always bring with you, or do you never have a bag? Or
That would be also my cock.
so okay, so you are like that's the only thing, but it's stuck on you, so it's
Yeah.
all right. No keys, no wallet, no hand cream.
No.
No?
Sorry.
All right,
Sorry, they
Dave.
have to
This
let
person
you
doesn't need a bag. You're not going to see him with a bag. But actually, it makes sense because as a latex person, you don't have a bag, really. Like,
Yeah,
I've
you
never
don't have a
seen
bag, and
person
then
with a
it's
bag.
like, I mean, look, anything you bring in a bag to a party is only going to distract you. So why would you bring a bag?
Where do you put the money? Like, you can put them only inside the latex.
Come on, who in Berlin is bringing money to a party? They're all drinking water. Like, they come through the door more radioactive than radioactive, man. Like, come on. Like, don't tell me anyone needs money.
Okay, there we go. He's very Berlin. Very. Thank you so much, Karl. This was a big pleasure. It was so nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was really fun.